I'm sensing what I think could be a theme for the week. And this article that someone sent in, I'm reviewing articles this week, and that's what it feels like at least. This one is titled Agile is Not Dead, Whether You Like It or Not. Now, if I had a nickel for every time I heard someone say, Agile is dead, it's going away, oh my goodness, I would be a millionaire. But what I can tell you is this article hit some things on the head and made me scratch my head for some other things. Let's dive in and we'll let Nils do the talking here. So this is from Nils Hoffmeister, and I want to celebrate this article because I think the majority of it's on point. So let's go. So it says recently there's been a flood of articles and videos claiming that Agile is dead. The Agile Manifesto was created during my university years, so I witnessed firsthand how this topic gained traction in software development. As a result, I have a pretty strong opinion on the matter, and I'd like to put it out there. Let's roll. When I first started my career around 2005, I was before that, I saw someone pinning sticky notes onto a blackboard and thought, what nonsense. Nowadays, I think that anyone claiming Agile is dead might as well say gravity is dead or the earth is flat. First off, why do I have such a clear stance? Over the years, I've learned more and more about software development. I remember around 2006, I carried out my first small project on my own responsibility, building a few smaller features into an existing C++ behemoth of about 4 million lines of code. I planned everything meticulously and was incredibly proud that I delivered it on time. The catch. First, it was a very small project, and second, I used at least half of my budget for analyzing and planning. After that initial sense of accomplishment, I felt a bit deflated. It was only much later that I heard about Agile, and even later still that I learned what lies behind it. What impressed me the most about Synapse was which classifies problems into 5 different domains. In my experience, the standard domain in software development is a complex one. Usually, many people work on a system for a long period of time. No one fully grasps all the internal dependencies of such a system, especially not a single individual. In that sense, software is inherently complicated, but since some aspects of cause and effect inevitably remain unknown, it presents itself to developers as a complex system anyway. Okay, I can live with that. So far, so good. I think everything's on point, and so far, I like where this is going. Additionally, there are almost always dependencies on third party systems, whether via package management, cloud providers, external APIs. In the medium term, AI will initially make things worse because, as yet another layer of abstraction, it will further reduce knowledge of the systems we work on. In the long term, things may go differently, but in my opinion, that's still a year or two off. The already existing complexity is, from my perspective, largely a consequence of the many layers of abstraction we rely on, starting with compilers and interpreters through design patterns like ORM, object orientation, and onto powerful frameworks such as ROR or React, just to name a few. The real core question that Agile addresses, in my view, is the most economically sensible way to work on such systems. Since cause and effect are particularly unknown, the approach must be an emergent one. Otherwise, we would spend far too many resources analyzing. In that sense, I think move fast and break things is usually the great motto. Unless I'm building nuclear power plants, rockets, vaccines, or other high-risk things, in that case, the expensive analysis may be worth it. Okay, so far so good. Again, I'm not flying off the handle here. For me, the Agile Manifesto is symptomatic of the growing complexity in software development over the last century. The final one of its 4 recommendations states that responding to change is more important than following a plan. That is a key statement for me. The essence that the other 3 recommendations depend on. So as long as the premise holds that software development is so complicated or complex that no single person can fully understand the cause and effect, we still need what, as I understand, Agile is all about. Where then do these increasingly loud voices proclaiming Agile is dead come from? I believe it's not about a concept, but about its implementation. You got my clap. That means you're on target. Over the years, a whole industry has sprung up from the Agile mindset. Even before the Agile Manifesto, there's Scrum, Kanban, Lean. These ideas were folded and sold in standard solutions of a growing crowd of consultants, Scrum Masters, Agile coaches, product owner certifications, Agile transformations. It became big business. And wherever there is money, you'll find snake oil salespeople. My favorite example is consultants who still 10 years later sell the so-called Spotify model as a standard blueprint for good organizational structure. From what I've seen, Actual Spotify employees find it a bit embarrassing, as it was not a reality for long, if at all. But consultants still have no qualms about it. Forget all the sales BS articles. Have a look at this one. And they give a recommended article. Let's stop there for a second. So here's what I know about Spotify. I did an episode not too long ago explaining the whole thing top to bottom. And at the end of the article, I also was very clear that Spotify didn't do this for long. And it's not because it didn't work short term. It's because Spotify does what they need in the moment. And I think that if organizations behave this way, there's a time and a place for something like Spotify model, but it should never be the overarching, everyone will work this way. Oh, we'll have guilds and we'll have tribes and we'll have squads. And yeah, I get it, but not every organization folds into that line of thinking. The same thing happened with Agile. Tools and processes were prescribed that could be very good in themselves, but if they try to be applied in a cookie cutter fashion without building any real understanding or buy-in, they just won't work. There we go. Before COVID, I often saw so-called agile transformations fail because they weren't truly desired. Sure, maybe some people wanted it, but if an agile mindset is only present among engineers, while most people are stuck in the mentality of the 1980s, the whole thing is going to fail, period. I might add that after COVID, zeitgeist to me appears to have gone fully revisionist, but that's a totally different story. Okay, I guess that is a different story for another day. Oh dear, I wrote Agile Mindset. I'm sure that's going to trigger some people. My comment on that is if an organization is really agile, it will be more productive, but also more demanding for everyone because the pressure to act comes from the team, not from the managers. You have to experience that to understand it. And to be fair, it only works when mostly everyone involved is open to it and genuinely wants to take on responsibility. I know plenty of people who don't and would rather just work through their tasks. That's totally fine. But if I'm setting up an operating model, I have to consider which personalities it works for and which ones it doesn't and what that entails. I don't want to indulge in victim blaming either. The point is simply that an organization has existing means and methods. If I show up with Scrum, Jira, and self-organization without clarifying the underlying purpose, and if the change really isn't wanted, we'll end up with a cultural issue very quickly, especially when I promise quick fixes. These kinds of issues are always lengthy, and success is never guaranteed. The only guarantee is that the transformation will fail before we even consider it. From this perspective, I understand that anyone who is tired of stand-ups, user stories, tickets, product owners, or agile coaches, and the worst, oh my goodness, retros, just kidding. I think the bubble that's currently bursting is the commercial exploitation of agile. And it's good if the rampant growth comes to an end. Whether you write agile with a lowercase or an uppercase A should not matter, and it doesn't matter to me. I find safe excruciatingly clumsy. But saying agile is dead just because its implementation is annoying, flawed, or not presented correctly seems short-sighted to me. Not only is it a well-written article, but it's 98% factual. So Nils, congratulations. This is a very, very well done, thoughtful, considerate article. It focuses on some of the technical aspects which a lot of people don't understand, which I think is great. But it also is an easy read for people who may not be technical and for them to understand. So I don't know that it's a deep dive either. I think that you got a good balance here, and I love the article overall. So thanks a lot for producing a great article. We're going to go ahead and publish a link to it inside of the comments. If you have an article you want us to review or a topic you want us to discuss, learn more at AgileDad.com. We'd love to talk to you. And at some point, hopefully, we stop talking about Agile is dead. As always, we encourage you to stay healthy, stay well, and stay agile, my friends. Until next time, do take care.